In the afternoon, we heard Mr. Devashish Panda, the chairman of the IRDAI, talking about the journey to 2047. And insurance for all was the topic. I mean, why 2047? Because it coincides with 100 years of independence for India. And at the moment, we still have a lot of ground to cover in the insurance space. And with me, I have some of the country's top insurers as well as insurance broking agencies as well. So just to start off, I'll start with you, Tapan. With regards to insurance for the underinsured and the uninsured segments, what innovative insurance products can we come out with? We have some from the government saying like the 200 rupee premium, PMJJ, all of that. But are there any innovative products that we can come so where we can cover a large segment of the population, if not all?
I think let's approach the problem statement first. See, insurance is not something that people normally are excited to buy. If I ask the audience, I ask any one of us sitting here, who got up excited to buy insurance any day? No, the answer is no. So you may come out with any innovative product. The issue is that people should be buying it. So the problem statement here is that if I look at insurance typically, it's always a collaboration between the government and the insurance industry, which gives amazing results from a social security perspective. Case in point, if you look at the Pradhan Mantri Yojana on health space, it has covered so many people across states. And each state may have a different scheme, like now Maharashtra has come out for everybody, 5 lakh sum insured. And you see millions of people have benefited from it. Now, from a perspective of the basic necessities of insurance, there are 2-3 segments which has to be taken care of. First and foremost, health. Because about 10 crore Indians go below poverty line because they can't afford the health care every year. I think that is the data point. Second problem statement is if you look at all these catastrophic losses like Sikkim, Uttarakhand, all these flood losses which happen.
Disaster.
So a lot of people who work very hard, build houses, build contents or SME, MSMEs, and most of them not covered also. One incident and it just pushes them back by 30, 40 years in terms of, now that has to be addressed. Third is crop. If you look at, though we have this Fasal Bima Yojana, but still covers about 25% of the farmers, in terms of it. When US, I think if I take it back 10, 15 years back, US, India both had about 25%. Now US is 70% coverage of farmers, Now that is the third issue which comes in terms of the social security and the benefit. Fourth would be the term life or the natural death, which should be covered. So basically the products such as these 4-5, which are very basic necessity for every individual of a country to be had. If you look at the developed markets, they would have a healthcare for all. They would have like 95 penetration for home insurance and the countries look at US, which would be there. They would be having this. So as a country, we have to, in collaboration with the government and the regulator, as an industry, provide this uniform or universal coverage to every citizen of India in this 4-5 thing which is there. So a lot of efforts are being made. You must have heard about this Bima Vistar, Bima Wahak. Yeah. The product has been designed from the industry along with the regulator, in which you have a life component, a term life. You have a content for the buildings, and you have a cover for health also. So this is being created, distribution is being created, but it has to be worked a lot more in collaboration so that the entire country can be covered for these together.
Okay. Ravi, if I was to come to you, especially from the health angle as well, if you could just tell me about some innovative products that we could have.
Same question, yeah. So I mean, just picking up where Tapan said it, I don't think it's a product distribution problem. I think there is and I'm just speaking on healthcare for the moment, or health insurance. So there was a recent survey done, and 34% of people said that they don't buy health insurance because they don't see the need for it. And this to me is something that is bizarre, because we're in a country, as Tapan said, 100 million people, 10 crore people go below the poverty line because they can't afford to pay, pay their healthcare. 21% of people, have to borrow. We're a country where only 40 out of every 100 needed surgeries get done. okay? And the rest of the people don't do the surgery largely because they can't afford it, and they just basically die. And I think that there are some fundamental issues when it comes to healthcare, health insurance. First of all, we as a country don't really have healthcare. What we have is sickness care. You get sick, you go to the hospital. We don't have a good primary, secondary care system, issue one. Second, healthcare is completely fragmented. So you have this pharmacy, that doctor, that hospital, that insurance company. None of these guys talk to each other. There is no central data. There is no real way for either your doctor to treat you or for your insurance company to understand, the full risk of what is it that they are taking on their books, and that impacts the kind of products and other things that can be sold. And then finally, you also have this system of kind of institutionalized mistrust between the payer and the provider, where the payer does not trust the provider does not trust the payer. And that then leads to a whole bunch of unnecessary outcomes, which both parties have to do that are logical. The insurance company has to manage its risk, the hospital has to manage its revenues. At the end of the day, it's the customer who isn't covered, right? And until you solve these things that are more fundamental, at least when it comes to health insurance, you're not going to really make much progress, because on private health insurance, 14% of people are covered in our country, 4%, 5% are covered in retail plans. There's a long way to go.
Right. Casparus, if I was to come to you, how can you leverage technology? I understand you use a lot of technology, especially in the micro insurance segment. So how can you leverage technology to create accessible micro insurance solutions?
Roshun, I think from what I could see, I've been in India now for 14 years, and I think I've been lucky to come into the Shriram group, specifically Shriram Life, so I can speak on the life part of it. But the Shriram group has always been focusing on the slightly lower segments, trying to serve the community in that way, so lower middle market, even depending on which product, slightly even lower than that. So there's always been a necessity to innovate and to bring products and solutions that could actually help at that level. So in some ways, if you look at life insurance, in some ways we do microinsurance. And we've been fortunate that through our sister companies, there's been quite a bit of innovation. If you look at the millions of truck drivers and truck owners that we insure, you have to bring that, let's say, education and awareness, but it comes through providing something that they can actually get insured for. So even if we started with credit life insurance, which is pretty standard, but it was not initially accepted until they started seeing the claim payments. So in the community, when you start seeing claim payments happening, then suddenly the awareness becomes very, very high. And then from that provides you with a basis to do more innovation. And now we are seeing things like, for microinsurance, we see some companies doing platforms where they bring, on the group business platform, you bring different groups together. Instead of doing each of them as one group, which typically as a life insurer, we would ask a huge amount of questions. The group would be too small. It would be difficult to insure. You see companies bringing groups together in platforms where we can insure them as a larger group. We can take a larger view. So I think there's a lot of innovation that is happening right now and that can happen. And there are many ways. So technology now helps us. When I came here in 2010, I struggled to get ECS to work for regular payments, right? And then NACH came, and then so many other new technologies came, which made it much easier. So continuously, technology is improving to such a rate that it makes it much more easy for us to get things done. Now it's just a question of, how can we apply our thinking and bring solutions to the market that can actually make that happen.
Okay, yeah. And with regards to distribution, if I was to come to you, Sumit, beyond just the traditional channels, What partnerships can insurers get into to expand the reach of insurance?
So obviously there are many channels from the distributor's perspective. Almost there are 6-7 channels from agents, brokers, IMFs, corporate agencies, So all these channels are there. And, again, we have partnership like from a broker's perspective, when we talk, we have something called a POSPs. So there are almost 22 lakh POSPs which are attached to insurers and brokers. So as far as channels are concerned, there are enough channels in the system. Obviously, technology, you're talking about technology. I think that is what we need to use to make those channels more viable in terms of, how they do the last mile delivery and how they can connect with the customers and how, they can solicit the policy. So I think that's where the key is. So we have almost 50 lakh people working in the insurance industry when you talk about agents, POSPs, and, the insurers and brokers. So I think technology led by people and a phygital model could probably lead to that.
Right. Tapan, you want to add to that? How we can expand the reach of insurance? Distribution.
So if I look at those Sumit mentioned that there are about 30-40 lakh distribution force, but for a country like India, that is still very small. The point is, how do we solve this problem? First is the last mile, the Gram Panchayat as the basic unit. So can we all say that, do we have a distributor in every Gram Panchayat of the country? I'm not sure if the answer is yes. So let's start by cracking that. And we heard about the Bima Wahak, and very soon, I think we'll be, as industry, trying to tackle that every Gram Panchayat, at least at the last mile, we have a distribution network which caters to all the segments of insurance, be it health, be it life, or be it non-life. That's on the reverse side of it. Second, let's say if I look at in terms of even very aware, educated people sitting here in this room, and if I ask that, can somebody stand up and say that they have a health cover for themselves, not by provided the company, because that is transient, Second, their home is covered, their content is covered. Third, they have a term policy, the products that I mentioned about, Fourth, they have a personal accident policy. And fifth, they have a cyber. Today, phishing, malware at individual level is very high, A retail cyber for it,
Right.
I think if I just put, and if somebody stands up and say yes, then we don't require any more distribution. I think we have reached a saturation. If only one person can stand up and say that. If the answer is no, nobody can stand up and say, I have all this product and I have taken them, or somebody, distribution sold to me, then we have it, which means that we have to create a massive distribution. And we are in talk with the regulator in terms of simplifying the licensing process, looking at different models of distribution, looking at new segments of distribution, looking at even the tech part that you mentioned, people who want to be pure virtual distributors. How do we put that together? As an industry, we are talking about it. But in my belief, our country, if I look at the insurance growth, double digit for past 20 years, phenomenal, CAGR, will remain so for the next 20 years. But the kind of growth that the industry should be looking at is plus 20% to 30%. And it can happen with the kind of distribution explosion, and it should happen till we get these answers, till we get a hall where we ask this question of basic insurance that everybody should be having, and everybody stands up and says, yes, we have it. Then I think we have reached a place where you can say distribution has.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because I think the government earlier had incentivized insurance distribution to some extent through tax benefits on ATC, ATD, all of that, which had people taking at least the basic insurance for health and for life, all that. But now with the shift to the new tax regime, some of that is going away. So do you see an impact of that on insurance distribution?
So I think I've mentioned this many times. My request to the government is that either we have a social security framework for the citizens of the country. No, it's fine. Like they are protected, it's fine. As an industry, it's fine. Or we encourage behavior in which individuals are able to protect themselves and safeguard themselves. Now, how do you encourage behavior? One is tax rebate. I think we have seen this work. We look at the life penetration that we see today, the way it has moved up. It was because of tax. Look at health people do value that, and they have a role to play in looking at our behavior. Or let's say even for home insurance, we're having so much catastrophic losses. If we check the amount of SME, MSME which have got destroyed, the guys who have been future big industrialists, in the entrepreneurship journey, they have become like poor people on the street. Why can't we have a mandatory requirement of cover for all SME, MSME? Why can't, even a simple, let me tell you, if you want to crack this health for all, and we don't want to pay anything from the exchequer. Let us say the government says we don't have the money. In US, you have a condition in which every employer has to provide a cover for every employee of theirs. Now, let's say in India, we say every employer should provide cover for every employee, and the payment can be from CSR fund. Second, you already have government schemes. The government schemes premium is how much? 1,500 rupees to about for a year for a 5 lakh floater cover for family, which means that if I have a house help and if I have mandatory to cover the house help, what am I talking about? 150 rupees a month? Will I not do it? Or anybody say no to that? Now, it doesn't even require government no money. It's the intent to see how do we solve this together, how do we put together. In the light of the question we asked, the tax benefit should be there. The government are losing it. It's creating a social security net by individuals for themselves. They're building it up. And it's a very powerful thing if we want to say that we are a Viksit Bharat, we are a developed nation. This is the basic minimum the citizens of the country should be having.
Okay. Well, that is from the government side, but
I think, just one more thing to add, just from the government side, right? Just from a consistency of messaging perspective. If you look at something like health insurance, it is taxed today like a luxury. So people pay 18% GST to protect themselves against, and we talked about all the stats about, people going below poverty line, etc. Why should that be? Now, I know there's a lot of discussions going on about this. Hopefully it will change. But just building on Tapan's point, I think it just needs to be a consistent approach.
okay. No, so I was saying, adding to what Tapan said, insurance companies right now are more interested with just sales, more policies, sell more policies, which of course they should be doing. But do you think we should be also looking at educating at least at the grassroots level, since we're talking about inclusion and insurance for all, and making them aware of what insurance can actually do, how we going with
so
that?
before others answer, I just want to give some inputs on what's happened on that, and then we say. So as an industry, we all agreed to every year give a part of our collection of premium for this awareness creation. Okay. This has already been passed in the council, and you'll be seeing impact of it. I was speaking to the chairman IBAI, he said even the regulator is going to do that. So there is a lot of work happening in terms of building up the corpus money for building this thing. And every individual insurance companies by regulations also has to do awareness, which they have to submit a report to the board and to IBAI. I think I'll just give some input here and before I pass it on.
Yeah.
And I think that, those are good steps. And as an industry, I think we all have to do a lot more at the grassroots level to educate people. The 4 main covers that Tapan spoke about, for example, everybody should have it. There is no before you invest, before you do anything else, you need to protect what you have. And these covers are not expensive. I mean, this is one of the cheapest markets for insurance globally. It is affordable. You can find a lot of good carriers with affordable premiums. You must protect yourself first. It's kind of a basic. And as an industry, I think we all have to go out there and do everything we can to make sure that we communicate that message to people through all means possible.
Right. Casparus, in your experience, how have you been going about at least making people at the grassroots level literate, since you all deal a lot with microinsurance like you're talking about?
It's almost counterintuitive, because if you look at if just looking at it from the life insurance perspective, how it has been sold in this country, many other countries as well. Given the tax benefit and given all the others, it's been mostly positioned as an alternative investment or a tax-saving device way for more wealthy individuals. And as insurance professionals, we all want average ticket size to go higher. We all want persistency to be high. We're looking at those parameters. But if you are going to cover everybody in the country, you need to be ready for the opposite. You need to be ready for much lower premiums, so a lower average ticket size. You need to be ready for other types of products. You need to be ready for lower persistency, and things like that. So it goes counter to that. But having said that, yes, a lot of awareness happens in that process. We all have the responsibility to do that as an industry. And in my experience, what we have seen is, as soon as even if somebody's underinsured, or which most people are in India, but even if at the lower segments, when people at least get some insurance, that spreads the awareness that when it pays out, there's people become more aware about it. So I think it's still, in a way, it's still early days in India. It's still a very nascent industry. It needs to develop and grow. And it needs to move towards from savings towards protect yourself first, as you said.
Right.
That message needs to happen. So, and all of us in the industry needs to work towards that, so people get covered first, rather than only using it as a savings vehicle.
Okay. Sumit, when we speak of insurance for all by 2047, and you can add to this as well. One of the big things is, how are you going to deal with the increased risk and underwriting that would be there when we speak of insurance for all?
So I don't think so. That's a bigger problem. If you have enough capital, obviously, the risk would be absorbed by the insurance companies. And, if there is enough capital in the system. There are only 31 insurance companies on the general insurance side and 24 on the life. So as market expands, newer people will join in, more capital would come in. And obviously, with the new generation, underwriting skills on, the AI and the technology building up. So I don't think so. That's a challenge for the ecosystem to really bother about. Probably we need more education. I am very passionate on the subject which you just spoke about on the education. I think that is where we are lacking. We don't have a formal education system where in the school, college we are taught about insurance. I always feel that we need to go back to explain to the child what is the meaning of risk, how the risk has to be transferred, and what risk has to be retained. I think the day a child in a school or a college starts knowing about all these subjects, when he becomes mature, probably he'll queue up to buy an insurance for himself. And I think that is what I aspire to do. As an insurance broking association, we have already taken those steps. We have already generated a PowerPoint presentation which we have circulated to all the broker members, and we are urging all broker members to, go to their school, colleges, and, do it some session on a weekend to make these awareness, So that's what we are doing. Thank you.
Okay. And what kind of disruption do you see coming from, we're almost out of time, so in the interest of brevity, what role do you see AI playing in the insurance industry? I know that, for fraud mitigation and all that, there's a lot of ground that's already been covered by AI. And what kind of disruption do you see coming in from the newer digital-only insurance players?
So the way I have always mentioned is more the merrier.
Okay.
So US, you'll be surprised, has 6,000 insurance companies. And 6,000, yeah.
Wow.
And we have 60, 70, I think. If I look at even UK, they would be, even Singapore would be having close to 2,000, 1,000 plus, if I'm not wrong. So the more the merrier, I think, for a country of our size and population and the need, the number of commuters. So all kind of people, companies are welcome first to begin with. They'll all create a solution. They'll all find ways to reach out to the customer. And hopefully that would open up the market and make it much better for the customer. That is the first statement. But have they done it till now? The answer is no. And not only in India, across the world, if I look at the tech, so-called pure tech players, none, and I can say that none have really been able to make a disruption to any legacy kind of part. So the problem statement is somewhere else. It is just not a pure tech solution of looking at insurance, because as I said, fundamentally the difference is in most product categories, the consumer is looking for the product. Be it in e-commerce, be it a loan to be taken. In insurance, the consumer is not looking for the product. I think it has to be handled very differently. That is what currently it is.
Okay.
And I think just to build on that, right? If you look at, I think this whole dichotomy between legacy and tech is, there is no legacy player that is not tech today, right? I mean, if you look at the company that Tapan runs, I mean, this is more digital than probably any other, any insurtech that's kind of around, for example, right? What's the difference? The difference is that the legacy companies or traditional companies, if you want to call it that, their DNA is how to know which risk to take and how to manage the risk and the operations. What tech companies are supposedly better at is in having a better customer experience. I think that it is much easier, it's not easy, but easier for a legacy company to figure out the tech to improve the customer experience than it is for a company that knows good customer experience to figure out the risk.
Okay.
That's my view.
Yeah.
Yeah, from what I've seen here, I think especially life insurance, this is something that needs a lot of personal face-to-face interaction. And yes, technology solutions are very critical. They help a lot. They make a big difference. But disrupting purely from a technology perspective, in my view, would be very difficult. Okay. I think you need maybe from a technology perspective with a very large scale, coming in with a large customer base already. Maybe that could be a disruption. But purely with a technology solution, no, because somebody needs to still go and speak and interact. And my experience with customers in India is that they want to trust a person. Somebody they need to feel that trust before they would actually buy. It'll take a long time for everybody to become self-directed and just buy their own life insurance policies.
Yeah, and Sumit, I'll have you can have the last word.
So my view is, I think technology is not a disruptor, it's an enabler, So I think a collaboration of technology with insurance would go hand in hand. And obviously the expectation from people, grew every year in terms of the servicing. So unless you have that great technology along with a physical model, which we required in insurance, as people said, because, the jargons are difficult to interpret. So you need somebody to convince, to handhold, and then probably technology to service it. So I think hand in hand, if it goes, probably we can do much better.
Great. I'm sure the discussion go on for quite some time. There are a lot of questions. Can you take just one or two questions? That's it. Because we have to, quickly. Yeah.
So insurance as a product, insurers are selling trust. So there isn't like ROI until there is a claims. And we see in India, we want to push insurance for all. However, there's a place where there are a lot of anecdotal incidences where a claim is not done, or there has been a incident that has happened, and there is a bad mood. So that again leads to insurance as a product not being trustworthy. So how can brokers be there for these sort of grievance addresses for customers?
See, first of all, we as an insurance industry have not marketed very well in terms of what is the final outcome. So, last year we did around 2.89 lakh crores on a general insurance side, where almost 2 lakh crores claims were given back. Probably we have never highlighted these kind of figures. So claim to milta hai, itne paise to gaye hi hai, 2 lakh crores has gone out. But probably that kind of outreach has not happened through the media, through the insurance industry, through the regulator. So I think that is what is key. And from a broker's perspective, obviously we are representing the customer. So we make sure that, and obviously there is an issue in terms of understanding between the need and what is being pursued by the insured. So when a person buys a policy, probably he feels everything is covered on the earth, but it doesn't happen. It's a contract. It's hard-coded contract, what is covered, what is not covered. And I think people's expectations sometimes reach beyond that. Probably we could definitely help in decoding that fact and helping those customers. As far as grievance is concerned, obviously our clients, we take care of the grievance, but we also help if we are not able to solve the problem, to approach probably to the ombudsman or to the other forums.
Yeah. So I'll just leave you with two questions. Look at the answers of that and then try and think about it. First is, how much profit does the general insurance industry make overall, and how much profit does the banking industry make? So I'll leave this question to you, no? Look at that, yeah? Second is the number of grievances to the transactions. What is available publicly, no? Let's say for general insurance, how much, and how much is it for the banking world? And then after you get this data, then ask yourself why this perception on the general insurance. I leave this homework for you. Next time when you see me, ask me. I'll tell you. But
Okay.
do this homework to be able to figure this out.
Can we take this offline, because we have to conclude and we're running a little out of time. So you can take your question offline. With that, I'd like to thank everyone for this very interesting session. Thank you so much, and hope to see you again at our next summit as well. Thank you.